The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and are not those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. The phone lines are open. Call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788. That's 220-WSTU. It's time for Stuart Laser Talk with your host, Dr. Tred J. Rizacker.
I'm 5'10" and 242 pounds.
I always say this is the biggest I'm ever going to be, and I said that like 20 pounds ago.
A third of Americans are obese, another third is overweight.
Obesity is the biggest threat to the health, welfare, and future of this country.
I've always been overweight.
I've got diabetes.
Sleep apnea.
Heart disease.
Everything's hurting now.
It's a lot easier to lose weight than it is to keep weight off.
This is probably going to be the first generation of children who are going to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents.
18% of our children right now are obese.
It's not only health, it's about survival and well-being of the United States as a nation.
You don't crave broccoli, and our generation has grown up craving a Big Mac.
I'm going to think that there's something better for me.
Unless we're able to control this epidemic, we're going to have an abundance of chronic disease.
All of us have to be part of the solution to reduce obesity.
The weight of the nation is out of control, but we can fix that.
If we don't now take this as a really urgent national priority, we are all going to pay a really serious price. Obesity will crush the United States in oblivion.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Bonnie.
Hello. Hi. I'm over here.
Yes, she is my beautiful board operator. We got a complete upgrade today.
Oh.
As Evan throws his arms up, sorry, you're not as beautiful as Bonnie is.
Oh.
But
He's almost.
Yeah, almost. Anyway, so looking forward to it. Just coming back from a little healing time of my own. Had a little chest cold and took advantage of it and took 2 weeks off and, happy, healthy. Somebody says, how did you do? I said, I was born for this situation. I've been preparing for this my entire life. I wanted to see how I do, and I made it and I'm through it. And it was on a scale of 1 to 10, it was about a 3 for me. And that's a good, that's the way I've been much sicker. Yet this has a huge PR campaign following it. And everybody thinks that they're going to go off into the wilderness, into some ventilator scenario. And you know what? It was, I took care of myself, drank plenty of fluids, got adjusted. I'm a chiropractor and took my vitamin C and zinc and did really, really well. And I'm super happy for that. So you're listening to Dr. Tred Rizacker. I am a doctor of chiropractic, 33 years in practice, and I've devoted my professional career and my life to the helping of people with health problems. And lately, as of the last 10 years, it's people that are accumulating poundage, getting heavier and heavier, having more difficulty losing weight, frustrated, struggling with trying to get the weight off. Why does it come back so fast? I've devoted my life and my practice to this, and it's called the Slim Body Laser Spa. And the Slim Body Laser Spa, basically, we're using an FDA-cleared low-level laser, a very safe device to help you to shrink away excess inches. And at the same time, as a doctor, I'm completely qualified in nutrition and wellness and nutrition, aspects. We put you under a complete nutritional wellness program. And then at the end of the 3 to 4 weeks of the laser, most people will lose 3 to 9 inches and anywhere between 2 to 6 pounds. It depends on how much weight they came in with. And here's a very interesting thing. I know the first thing you're thinking of, my God, it must be expensive. All those pills and supplements and all of the blood work that they require. No, none of that. None of that. You can learn how to eat in kindergarten. They taught you in kindergarten what to eat, what not to eat, when to take a nap, when to go pee-pee. They taught you this. And yet you forgot, or you figured, I'm driving, I can't pull over, right? And how did we lose touch with these basics? Because the basics have become where you have to pay somebody to get the information. In other words, what your grandmother taught you doesn't apply anymore because she's not around. And so I have to sign up for a keto plan. And I saw this great ad on TV on the internet where this girl lost all these inches, and it's something called keto. And I wanted to know more about it. And when I signed up, it was a membership. It was a funnel. And then I got hammered with all these emails. And next thing you know, they want $25, $35 to tell me how to eat keto. And, this just never ends. It's just this business model, this business opportunity that people are using. And they're not doctors, most of them. If they were, they wouldn't be on the internet hawking keto plans. They're usually somebody who got a good result, decided it was time to, they're sitting home by themselves and they got nothing but a computer there in front of them, and they create these business models based on something you should and very easily can find on your own. So what's really interesting about my Slim Body Laser Spa is you pay for the spot fat reduction part, which is absolutely super effective. And then you get the wellness and the nutritional part at the same time for no extra charge. In other words, you're not going to be sold a bunch of pills and supplements and mailing food to your house. You're not going to have to sign any long-term contracts. There's no auto ship program. There's no meetings to go to. There's no shots to endure. There's nothing but, oh my God, I can't believe how quickly the fat came off. That's usually what I get. And at the same time, after the first week, nobody really wants to do their nutrition for the most part. I mean, they're interested, but hey, let's face it, you've been beat down so much when it comes to food and what choices are. It's really hard to even know who to trust or who to believe in. So that first week, people are a little apprehensive about changing much about their diet. Some know they need help, others are not as likely. And what happens is at the Slim Body Laser Spa, while you're lying on your back, losing inches, and I mean that, napping, we give you a food plan. We start to develop a nutritional profile based on your specialness. Okay. Because everybody's special and they have certain foods they eat, certain foods they won't eat, certain things that make them sick, certain things they like, certain things they want to share. And let me tell you, it's usually what Not Weight Watchers offers. Or your goals center where they're just trying to teach you, to make you eat rice cakes and keep your diet under 1,200 calories. It doesn't work for a lot of people. So one of my strong points as a chiropractor is I've suffered too. I suffered with weight. I suffered with the certain foods I like. I love to fish. I'm a fisherman and I spend a lot of money on my boat. And when I go fishing, I'll drop, I don't know, $200-$300 in fuel and bait and take my friends out. And, we're out there all day and I pull one of these beautiful snappers up off the bottom and like a tug of war from hell, and then I bring it home and oh, that's not in my diet. That wasn't, I went through my book that I got from the weight loss center. It doesn't say anything about fresh snapper. Oh man, what am I going to do now? Oh, it has to be, it needs to be salmon. Well, I don't like salmon. It's kind of greasy and I want to eat this fish I just caught. You know where I'm going with this, right? So, I learned over the years that it's not really it's about quality of food that you choose, what you choose to put in your mouth. It's about quantity, how much you're going to eat, and also frequency, how often you eat. And those are the three factors. I promise you, if you don't handle the quality of the food you're putting in your body, the quantity, how much you're putting in, and how often you're feeding yourself, you will never really be too successful with weight loss or weight gain. You know, these are principal foundations of how the human must eat food if we want to maintain and sustain a healthy, normal weight. Now, this doesn't apply if you're preparing for the winter and it's 10,000 years ago. You know, right? 10,000 years ago, there was no 7-Eleven. There was no refrigeration. There was no way of storing meat. We didn't know the difference between a protein and a carbohydrate. I promise you. We knew that the cold was coming. The year before, half of our tribe died in the cold because they couldn't get enough food. And I see off in the distance, I see a mango orchard full of mango trees. There's got to be 100 trees there. You know, it's 10,000 years ago. And you got you had a few cold nights, some flurries came in, an early winter. What do you think your choice should be at that point? Are you going to be looking for roots and looking for super, low nutrient dense food? Are you going to be worried about your carbohydrate, your cholesterol? Heck no. You're going to make your way to those orchards, those mangoes, and you are going to gorge as many as you can before it freezes or somebody else comes to take them from you. And you might have a day. You might have 2 weeks if you're really lucky. And you will eat and eat and eat to make fat. If you don't think that this is a normal scenario for us, then you're not thinking. What do you think, that we all were born with clothing on or something and cut perfect nails and we went to the barber? No, man, you lived out in the woods. You lived out in the environment and you dealt with the storms and the rains and the looking for shelter and food. And this was not that long ago. It was 10,000 years, 20,000 years ago. We buried our dead. We had relationships with women and men that lasted forever. I saw I went to the Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C. with my wife. And of course I went right to the human what we know about humans. And they had the early man, they had the Lucy, they had all the different, what these hominids, and they say that they're our ancestors. And then they had a cave set up that was 175,000 years ago. 175,000. Now, just to let you know, we've only been able to speak for about 10,000 years. Okay? Right? If you want to know how long the human has been on this planet, I'll give you a little scenario. Picture the Washington Monument, 20 stories high, right? And picture that as the timeline of Earth, how long the Earth has been here. On the very top of that Earth, you can put the thickness of a dime, and that's how long the human has been here. The thickness of a dime on top of the Washington Monument. Do you know how long we've been able to speak? The thickness of a postage stamp. I'm telling you. Okay, our vocal cords, we have to develop vocal cords. Your Cro-Magnon, he's got a big freaking head. He doesn't have any vocal cord. He can hug and scream and yell, but you got where I'm going. Anyway, so not to get on a tangent here. So at this event in Washington, they had redone a cave that was for burial for Neanderthal, which is the last successful human before hominid came along, which is what we are. We're hominids. We have a big head, big brain, not as much muscle. But the Neanderthal, so this cave was a burial cave for Neanderthals. And what they found was 175,000 years old. It had 2 burials. They had a man and a woman who were both elderly, because they could see by the bone structure, the arthritis and the gray hair that was left, that was amazingly preserved because it was in this cave and nothing could get in there. And here's what was very interesting was they had flowers and grasses that were from the area, but not directly like outside the cave. In other words, people came to visit and brought flowers and brought things like we do today with funerals. And some of the flowers were impossible to be from in that cave. They couldn't have come from in front of it. In other words, they had to carry it from the plains and bring it up. And they were set up in certain ways as to be respectful. And so the body was protected. It was protected from animals. So we knew enough about that. They put the husband, they put the boy, the man and the woman together, and they brought flowers. That was 175,000 years ago. Okay. And yet we think we're so evolved. Let me tell you, that's, that kind of stuff just rocks me, because now I go back and I tell you that 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, we would go to a fruit orchard and we would eat everything we possibly could. And oh, you're a glutton. You shouldn't have eaten that. Look at how much sugar's in that. And the guy would look at you and said, I'm making fat for the winter. How dare you criticize how I look? We'll see who comes out of the cave come June. If you make it out, you little skinny mini, I'll come out. I'm kind of making fun about this, but so first rule, we are going to have a tendency of looking for sweet, fatty, sugary, salty things over healthy food. You are given this for thousands of years of evolution to make you look for that versus eating roots and eating plants. Believe me, because of the fact that we lived in a food scarce world. And here's another really important fact. What you can put on in 2 weeks of overeating will take you anywhere between 6 months, depends how much you ate, 6 months to a year to get that weight off again. So you can put it on. You could put on 30 pounds in a week to 2 weeks. I mean it. You can make a pound of fat every single day. 30 days, 30 pounds. When you decide to eat less, it can take you 6 months to get that off. That's because your body knows that, you were supposed to be eating for a starvation period. Now here's where we're in trouble is we're going into the winter with food. Yes, we are making sure that, yes, it is fall, and I know there's a lot of fruits on the trees, and I put on some weight. It's summer, it's fall, and now I'm going into winter, but the food doesn't stop. In fact, we center our lives more around food, around dinners, around, it's comfort food. It's soups. Now it's baked chickens. Now I can't go to the beach as much. I'm not running around because it's cold. So I'm indoors, and now I'm eating more and more. And I'm not exercising unless I go to wear some special outfit and go to the gym where I feel okay. They're all seem to have these special outfits at the gym. You can't even go in there with a pair of regular shoes on. They'll throw you out. And now you're not able to get the exercise, and food is present when you get in the car. It's present when you go to the gas station. It's right there on the rack when you leave the Home Depot and stuff. They got the foods, they got the snacks. And you wonder why we're dying from obesity. Why, it's so hard for me. You just don't understand what I'm going through. Well, eventually nature will eliminate you. It won't be my fault. It won't be it won't be anybody else's fault. Nature will eliminate that which doesn't take care of its health. And then you have bacteria and viruses and protozoas and nematodes and spirochetes. And I can't even name the crap that's waiting for you to weaken your state, for you to come into a weakened situation, a depressed immune system. It's out there. There's so many bugs, germs, protozoas, bacterias, viruses waiting, doing push-ups in the parking lot, waiting for you to skip a meal, waiting for you to go for a heavy day of drinking, getting up without getting any nutrients that day, skipped a meal. And your immune system is like, oh my God, I got to get rid of all this toxin. Oh my God, my liver is, geez, I was, what a night I had. Oh, it was a lot of fun. And now, and you know what, I'm trying to eat and I just don't feel like eating this morning, and I'm going to skip the gym, and that's if you're even have a tendency to do that. And then remember, those germs, those protozoas, those spirochetes, those little worms are out in the parking lot waiting for you to be vulnerable. And that is the truth. So it's your choice. Now, of course, medicine has a poison that will kill a worm. Medicine has poisons that will kill the bacterias. Medicine and pharmaceutical agents have looked at the sickest of the people and have worked up a plan of pills, of supplements, not supplements, of drugs to speed up your heart rate, to slow down your blood pressure, to lower your cholesterol, to improve your breathing because you've smoked and you now have COPD, to all of these crutches and these treatments are just symptomatic treatment for somebody who has allowed their health, and not some not their fault. I know, but a lot of you, it is your fault. In fact, 90%. And you ask, when I got the cold last week, are you worried about COVID? I was like, are you kidding me? COVID? I says, I've been preparing my whole life for this day. From when I was a kid and my mom chose to breastfeed me, to the choice of my parents to not over immunize me, to being a chiropractor, to keeping my body fat down, to exercising, to avoiding poisons and toxic people and toxic environments, of not reading negative stuff to make me think that everything that's wrong with me, I have to run to a doctor. I mean, I could go on and on. Travis Stork from the doctor's program, he said that the choice to be healthy is about 300 choices per day. Not one big choice. It's 300 choices. And just because you have a good week doesn't mean you give it up. It's since I was a kid. And you know what? I was like, I'm reading, this COVID has a huge PR campaign behind it. You got to be fearful. You got to wear your mask. Look at what they're doing. And I was like, to the point where I'm like, bring it on, bro. I'm ready. If you think you're that badass, let's, and I don't choose that, but we're all going to get it, everybody. This is something that is really hard to believe. I want you to know something. Germs and bacteria are invisible. You cannot see them. So are viruses. And when you go to a place where there's a whole bunch of sick people there, and you assume that that place is clean and sterile and there's no germs or bacteria floating around there, you are sorely mistaken. You know what I'm talking about. I was 25 years ago when I got out of college as a doctor, my dad told me, he said that hospitals are the most germ-ridden, highest risk of anywhere you'll ever go in your life because of germs and bacterias, just because of the nature that's where people go when they're sick. It's not their fault. And that when they clean and they come in their gowns and they're completely wrapped, and it's not, they're very dirty. They're full of problems. They're full of what they call, these infections, that these germ resistant bugs, MRSA. This is where these things live. They breed in there. And excuse me, so we're looking at this building from outside, which everybody seems to be okay with big glass front windows. And they got these little isolation rooms. You go in, they close the door, they go in here. They're coming in with masks on and hand. Oh, here, cover yourself. And you got to stand behind this plastic. It's not a farce. It's the best they can do, but it's filthy. And you want to stay out of there as much as you possibly can. Now, I ended up with a chest cold and nothing bad, no fever. And I've been reading about this American Association of Physicians and Surgeons, the AAPS. And the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons has a protocol, a paper on what do you do if you suspect you have COVID? What do you do? You know what the first thing is? Don't go to the hospital unless you're really sick. Please, let's get that out of the way. If you can't breathe and you've allowed it to get to that point, you need to go to the hospital because the risks of not going are worse than the risks of going. But if you're not sure if you're sick or you're just recently tested positive with COVID and you don't really have any symptoms or maybe a little slight cough, you want to be treated at home. It's called ambulatory care. Call your doctor. I have a medical doctor. I called him and say, hey, I get a little cough here. It feels like it's in my chest. What do you want me to do? He says, I'll call the prescription and I'll get you some HCQ and we'll get you on a Z-Pack right away. And it was called into the pharmacy. It was delivered to me and I started on my HCQ and the Z-Pack. Now Z-Pack is azithromycin. It's a 5-day pill. You take one each day for 5 days. And it's a I don't know the exact term for it, but remember, the COVID is not bacterial, it's viral. So it's not going to respond to antibiotics unless there's a bacterial component to it. Now we know the HCQ is an antiviral agent. They use it for malaria, super well tolerated. So I took 2 of those every day for 5 days. At the same time, I took the Z-Pack, 1 a day. I felt better the day I started. I mean, that chest cold turned into just a cough, kind of persistent. And then within 8 days, I was all better. Now, I don't know what had happened, if it was actually, the dreaded COVID. The doctor asked me, do you want to get tested? I'm like, well, for what? He goes, well, that's a great question. He says, I'm going to treat it as if it is. And of course, hey, everybody, I isolated. I don't want to be a harbinger or spreader of germs, but I also know that isolation is only, 10, 14 days. So, I took some time off out of the office. I did some face-to-face consults on Face Live, live on the phone, where I could do the consult on the phone. I took it easy, drank a lot of fluids, and, I'm back stronger and better than ever. I'm sharing this with you because there's 2 tales here. There's 2 ways of handling this problem. And we're all going to get sick, people. I mean, it's hard to say that's never going to happen to you. Just be prepared. You want to be prepared when it happens. You want to, like I said, you've been preparing for this your whole life, or at least the last few weeks. And for me, it was not a big deal, man. If I had to put it on a scale of 1, and I have been sick in the past, I would put this at a 2 to 3 for me. Now the fear, would kind of come in and out. that could get high, especially when you tell people what's going on. Oh my God. Stay away from me. That really didn't happen with me. I have a lot of very understanding people in my life, and I'm good at isolating. I'm okay with that. I don't have a big family or anything. So, and then the tail is, and then the other one is I'm just going to stay home and try to tough this out and see what happens. And all of a sudden, within 3 days, I'm really having a hard time breathing. And, and I've been feverish and I haven't been eating well. I didn't do any other natural things, no chiropractors, no acupuncture, gosh darn it. I think we need to go to the hospital. And that's when they call up the ambulance and they show up. And then they all come in their gowns and wrapped you in some kind of protective plastic sheet like they'd wrap meat in. It's not that bad. But hey, they got to protect themselves because you got to the point where you probably have a bacterial infection now. And then they put you in the hospital. And we have wonderful hospitals, you guys. Please don't think that I wouldn't go there. I just want you to know if you can avoid going there, you should. Because they're full of germs. And, there's hospital related germs that you get from the hospital that you did not bring in with you. I promise you. And there's not a doctor that wouldn't agree to that. All right. Let's move on. If you have any questions, comments, I got an email, slimbodylaserspot@gmail.com. You go on my website. You want to have any questions? I have the paperwork on the early ambulatory home care. If you want some, I can send you that out as a PDF. It is approved by the American Association for American Physicians and Surgeons. This is the one doctor who Dr. Rand Paul is a member of. A lot of very prominent medical doctors are a member of this group. This isn't a fringe group. And you can get that information because you want to be armed with the facts. All right. Did you know that my office is the #1 laser slimming center in the country? I'll guarantee it. I've been doing this for 11 years. I do lectures. I've been to seminars. I've set up new offices. There's nobody. I talk to the manufacturers. They're all trying to get me on board because I have a very successful, very wonderful business model using laser and nutrition, whole body vibration and detoxification, and a fantastic staff to support it right here in Stuart, Florida, right here on East Ocean Boulevard, across the street from the Fresh Market. This is when you understand and really own the fact that body fat will be your #1 comorbidity when it comes to being sick. Comorbidity means it's something that you're carrying around with you, a health problem like heart disease, diabetes, having cancer, having a stroke, and now carrying body fat. High amounts of body fat is inflammatory. It is sickening. It lessens your body's ability to heal itself. That belly fat that's growing outside of your body is also growing up into your chest. It's impacting your diaphragm. You can't lower your diaphragm when it's filled with the omentum is filled with this visceral fat. So now you have these germs, these bugs, these protozoas, these spirochetes, and all these other animals that live in the world. And they want to get in through your respiratory system. They come in through your mouth and they go down into your lung and they look for a warm, comfortable place that they can replicate. But you have this reaction called the cough reflex. And you go, you cough it out. I covered the mic for that. All right. My ability to do that with depth and force has to do with how well I can lower my diaphragm. It's a muscle, people. It's a bellows. Remember the bellow they used to have that you would put in the air, the fire? That's the way your lungs work. It's a series of muscles and hinges that connect with your back, your bone, the bones of your back. Your vertebra, T1 down to T12, all have ribs connected to it. And this is called your rib cage. And within the rib cage is your lung. And the way the lung gets air pulled into it is by dropping the diaphragm, pulling down on the diaphragm. And then there's a bucket hinge motion that happens with your rib cage that lifts up your chest and then pulls down on it. And that is like a bellows. It pulls the air in and pushes it out. That's how you breathe. And because invaders like to come in through the lungs all the time, you have a really sensitive, super sensitive feeling when you need to clear your lungs with something. That's why if you ever drink a glass of water and it goes down the wrong pipe, what happens? You'll cough it right out on the table because you can't have any water in your lungs. You can't have anything in your lungs other than pure oxygen. Now, when bacteria and dust and things go into your lungs, there's a mechanism that remove the toxins and the debris through what they call the cilia. There's the lung is lined with these little fibers or little hairs. And as little particulate matter maybe collects because you're in a dusty environment, and or bacteria, the cilia carry it up towards your throat. And then as it comes up and it gets close to your esophagus, you feel like you got to clear your throat, right? And you and you clear it and you pop out that plug of mucus, which is sticky, full of whatever was down in the depths of your lungs. That's where that stuff comes from. I know. It's you should understand how your body works, because if you understand how it worked, you wouldn't do things to stop its abilities to heal itself. Now, one of the big risks with cigarette smoke or any smoking, whether it's one of these vapes that you're doing in the car, or whether you think because you're smoking marijuana that it's not developing, it's not damaging your cilia, those little fibers that line your bronchial tubes become damaged from the smoke. They become less motility. They become deadened. So now you have what you might call a smoker's cough. The cilia have been destroyed by the heat, just the heat, not the chemicals. When you take a drag off a cigarette, you're getting heat from it. It's a burning ember right next to your mouth, and that can kill those cilia. That starts to cause them to die off. It also, of course, it gets bathed, with the vape, and there's just so many risks that are involved with it that eventually you end up with a windpipe that cannot clear itself of this fluid, of the mucus. And that's why you get these people, you get the cough, get the smokers, the hack. And, unfortunately, on a lot of you, the cilia will never come back. Once that motility is gone, they've been dyed, it becomes scarred. And these are the people that will be much more vulnerable. We call it not everyone that smokes gets this, but when your lung gets damaged to this way, this is called a comorbidity. This is a vulnerability to those stupid germs, parasites, protozoas, worms, spirochetes, viruses, and bacteria that are doing push-ups out in the parking lot, waiting for you to come outside. It's a battle. It is a battle. I swear to God, it's a battle. All right. This is from a book called The Rays of the Dawn, and I'm gonna wrap this up with this next 15 minutes. I think you know that I do body sculpting, and if you want information about getting rid of body fat, please give me a call. My name is Dr. Tread, 772-223-5885. Just go to your Siri phone, your smartphone, and just put in drtread.com, Dr. Tread Laser. All of my stuff's going to come up. You're going to have a beautiful Australian sounding girl. I don't know why they use an Australian voice. I guess it's more calm. Siri, hello. Yes, drtreads.com. He's located over at Stewart, and you can lose 3 to 9 inches of belly fat while you lay on your back and listen to music. And would you like me to call for you? That's a pretty lame, but that's what it is. That's how easy it is to find me. All right. So this, what I'm going to read to you is a page and a half. Please bear with me. It's really, really worth it. And it was written in 1935. And think of how appropriate it is today. All right. It's not a religious piece, although it sounds a little religious, a little religious here, but that's okay. I think you can handle it. God breathed into man's nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. As a soul, each of us is confronted in this life with many vital problems, the solutions of which are of paramount importance to achieving happiness and well-being. We have problems. We're confronted with vital problems. We need to know the solutions. Events concerning the soul are taking place in the world today. And each of us, to a greater extent, is the pilot of our own course. In other words, we are the pilots of our lives. During the past, there's been much misunderstanding and confusion regarding the right way and the wrong way to live in order to be in harmony with the God within. We have had centuries of superstitious credulity and metaphysical and theological dogmatization concerning humanity's spiritual relationship with God. The world today is in chaos. You don't think that's the truth? This is 1935. The world today is in chaos. Those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear can only be pained and humiliated that the world is farther from real peace, farther from a new order based on mutual understanding and justice than it has ever been before. A titanic struggle is taking place between the two forces. They are now competing for mastery of the world. Think about that. The spirit of brotherhood is in danger of being stifled and crushed because selfish desires for aggrandizement are supplanting sound reason. The spirit of brotherhood is in danger of being stifled and crushed because selfish desires for aggrandizement, for more, are supplementing sound reason. We might ask the reason for all this confusion. On every side, there is a feeling of uncertainty, a feeling of distress. Everywhere people question, what is truth? What is reliable? Where can we find some rock on which to place our feet amid all the buffering, the conflicting opinions, the doubt, the skepticism, and unbelief? This book that I'm holding in my hand, called Rays of the Dawn, is addressed to those in need of a workable living philosophy of life. The message this book brings is a method by which the will of God may be enthroned in the realization of the destiny of the human soul. Its central theme is the subordination of the human will, perfect in its freedom, to the obedience of the natural laws which govern the body, mind, and soul in accordance with the purpose and divine plan of the Creator. Now, I just want to read that one more time because this is so true. The destiny of the human soul, it's the central theme of this book, is the subordination of the human will. In other words, the will has to be subordinated to a better understanding, perfect in its freedom to make decisions, to the obedience of the natural laws which govern the body, mind, and soul. So that means obedience to nutrition, obedience to exercise, the obedience to movement. These are physical laws of the body. The physical laws of the mind are being positive, being hopeful, having generosity, charity, love. All of these are, and then the laws of the soul, are the higher levels, being free of fear and skepticism. That's what this book's about. The most advanced thought of today concedes that God is within us, or that we are within God, and that God expresses as our spiritual consciousness. We should strive with intense enthusiasm and reverence toward the development of this consciousness in order that we may have life and have it more abundantly. Life will be glorious and happy when we realize that the universe is one of law and order and is governed by natural divine laws. As we become aware of the laws to which we are subject and learn to harmonize with them, we automatically attune ourselves with the divine. So you've got to know about these laws that run the universe. The universe is of law and order, and it's governed by these laws. If you don't know the laws, you're going to fall against them and they will harm you. If you understand the laws, they're beneficial. Use electricity. Think of electricity. It's a power. Do not know where it comes from, by the way. If you figure it out, you tell me. Okay, but we know how to make it. Take two currents, pass them together. Two magnetic fields makes electricity. If I take two electrical fields and pass them together, it makes magnetism. It's non-exhaustible. It's made from the air. Okay, it's power. It's electric. It's called electricity. Now, what if you didn't understand the laws that govern electricity? Suppose you were a caveman and you walked over with a fork and stuck it into the electrical socket. What's going to happen? That power is going to burn you. It's going to electrocute you. And until you figure out the laws involved with it, it's going to continue to burn you again and again and again and again. And eventually you'll learn the laws that govern electricity, the insulation, the polarity. You know, there's a lot of laws we take for granted. When I flip that switch on, somebody figured all that out. But the divine laws that run the universe, God's laws, they're just as immutable as electricity. And that law, that will either burn you or heal you. But you need to know the basics of the laws. That's what this book is. Rays of the Dawn. Natural laws of the body, mind, and soul. Okay. The individual who cooperates with natural law always benefits. Many physical ills can be cured by correct dietary measures. Many mental disorders can be cured by right thinking. Therefore, it is only logical to assume that spiritual inharmonies may be alleviated by right action. In other words, doing the right thing, people. Stop stealing. Stop having sex with people you shouldn't have sex with. Stay if you're drinking too much, lay off on. These are right actions that lead to spiritual sicknesses. The laws of nature are assuredly good. We're given these laws. We may regard them as dependable since they follow discernible routes, which we can know. We can see it. We can visualize it. I can see how it works. The greatest gift to humankind is the ability through intelligence to discern and utilize nature's methods for health. The best definition of natural law seems to be, it is the uniform and orderly method of the omnipotent God. Natural law, which pervades the physical, mental, and spiritual planes of life, is God in manifestation. It's the expression of God. The human body is a part of nature and therefore subject to its forces and laws, just like the animal. Our philosophies are filled with statements asserting that we have a mind that is governed by mental laws. All of our religions begin with the precept that each of us is a soul. Religions outline certain rules of conduct that the soul should abide by. Therefore, a thinking person will not dispute the fact that the body, mind, and soul are, like everything else in the universe, governed by certain laws. So my question is, what are the laws? This work in this book of this Rays of the Dawn, and I do have copies of this at my office if you're interested in knowing more about it. It has certain rules or laws as an answer, but it does not maintain that all the laws are here. This work merely offers a set of rules that you may examine critically to determine whether or not they're beneficial for you. This isn't the whole Bible. This isn't the whole God's whole plan. These are some suggestions and rules to get you started. When the human soul was created, it was given certain powers that no other form of life possessed, namely the power of choice or free will. That's what makes you different than an animal, by the way. Certain responsibilities have been placed upon you, the soul, in the exercise of this power. Our capacity to choose, therefore, does not involve freedom from the consequences of the choice. You can choose, but remember the law. You can speed, you can do those drugs and those, but the law's pretty clear. It doesn't free you from the consequence of that choice. The laws or rules which govern us and which are outlined in this work are exact as the laws which govern the material universe. We may act in accordance with these laws or disregard them, but we cannot in any way alter them. The law forever operates and holds us to strict accountability. We are punished or rewarded according to the way in which we utilize the law. We may act as we choose, but we cannot escape the inevitable consequence of the act. Boy, isn't that the truth? We may have faith or fear, but we cannot avoid the reaction upon our own physical, mental, and spiritual being. God, nature within, always operates according to law, never by chance. With your intellect and gift of reason, you may, if we desire, become an ally. We can work in harmony with the law, or we can act contrary to it. But the law determines the result or consequence of that choice. Throughout the long history of humanity's evolution, life has been a battle. We have fought among the species and among our own kind. Ignorance of the natural laws of life, which bring peace and harmony, caused a desire for power, self-assertion, exaggerated ambition, and greed. Terrible suffering has resulted. Our warfare against our own kind has been physical, mental, and spiritual. Discord, strife, and war continue even today. The world today is suffering from the will to power, and chaos reigns. It would seem that the human intellect is now sufficiently well cultivated to discern that we are the heirs and sharers of the divine nature, that our universe is one of law and order, and that all must operate according to law or be destroyed. We should strive to discover these laws that govern our lives so that we can consciously cooperate with those laws. Now, when the laws are discovered, they should be made a part of the curriculum of every school so that everyone will have the opportunity to learn the proper way to live. Undoubtedly, this would bring about a method of cooperation and collaboration that promises a future era in which brotherly love and mutual helpfulness would supplant the evils of today. Until such knowledge and the urge to cooperate with the divine becomes a part of our educational systems, then we could begin an active cooperation. So to wrap this up, it is written that as a man soweth, so shall he reap. When we are sufficiently well versed in the secrets of life, we can, by right discipline under law, enter into and understand what Jesus referred to as the kingdom of God within you. So this is a book I'm reading from the Rays of the Dawn, and it's a total health handbook. They're $14. We have them available at my office on East Ocean, right across from the Fresh Market. It's written by a Dr. Thurman Fleet. He's one of my mentors. He's a teacher, an incredible person. And it's basically the laws of life. It begins with the law of nourishment, the law of movement, the law of recuperation and sanitation. And you know, once you figure out those 4 basic physical laws, you have a much better chance of being healthy, everybody. This isn't a a God book. This is a how to live book. And it's easy to understand. I do classes on it. They're called the Rays of the Dawn classes. We're going to be initiating some new classes. I'm going to put something up on my calendar for when they're available, so you can come in and do it. To wrap this up, my name is Dr. Tread Rissacker, Slim Body Laser Spa. If you're interested in a free consultation, getting rid of some of that belly fat that's making you vulnerable to being sick, you give us a call. We're a guaranteed result. You don't get too many of that anymore. So, again, Dr. Tread, Slim Body Laser Spa across from East Ocean. Give us a call. We'll set you up. Thank you so much. Have a great day, you guys, and God bless. Bye-bye.